start from where we stopped. From 1.15 we discussed. The Paramatthadhammas have their own intrinsic nature. They are not things. They have their intrinsic natures, intrinsic functions, and also sub-natures and sub-functions. And in the intellectual analysis, these are the things that cannot be reduced anymore. It means they cannot be divided into components anymore. They exist by themselves. Their existence is their own nature. Then also we pointed out that all the Paramatthadhammas has its own arising. And a Paramatthadhamma can be differentiated from other based on their intrinsic nature and also based on their own arising. Now we come into another aspect of the Paramatthas, the same Paramatthadhammas, but we are going to talk about it in a different aspect as introduced by the Buddha. This explanation is found in the Sankata Lakkana Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya, third book, Tika Nipata. You can find this in 1.16. Each Paramatthadhamma has another three basic characteristics. Buddha gave it as Sankata Lakkana, the characteristic of conditioned realities. So he mentioned there is an arising, there is an arising, there is a persisting, there is a vanishing, means whatever arises passes away, vanishes away. Then during this arising and vanishing, there is a sort of a persisting phase in which there is an alternation can be experienced. Alternation means a sort of a change can be experienced. So these three characteristics, Upada, Vaya or Bhanga or Titi. Right? So if we name them as Upada, arising, Bhanga or Vaya, now we'll say Vaya, and Titi, these are the Pali words. So I'll be using these words very frequently in the lecture. Instead of, sometimes I'll be using the English terms, but mostly the Pali terms. Then it means, for example, Paramatthadhamma, before its arising, this is the philosophical point, before its arising, it did not exist. Arising means coming into existence. It means it was not there, and this nature, intrinsic nature, happens suddenly. Why it happens? Because of other intrinsic natures. So this intrinsic nature did not exist before it happened. So Upada means it came into existence. Then there is a Bhanga, means it disappears. After disappearing, it is no more. So before this and before arising and before passing away, after vanishing, before arising and after vanishing, the particular reality does not exist anymore. So now I am coming into a different second aspect of existence. Between this there is alternation. Alternation means weakening. It starts to weaken. So if we draw it in try to explain this in a drawing. So it's like this. It's getting weakened. It's not like the persisting phase is not in a same strength. It starts to weaken. So therefore, this is called the alternation. The changes happen. So in the lecture for conditionality, I'll be talking that the alternation can be explained in two ways. Between the Upada and Vaya, Upada and Bhanga, between this. Or at the same time, there is an alternation from starting from the beginning till the end. You can see in this, even in this drawing, we can see arising is also a sort of alternation, and also it's the speed of the arising starts to weaken. From the moment of arising, even though arising is one kind of positive force, that's why something which was not there suddenly happened. But that force has to reduce us, otherwise something which keeps on arising, keeps on growing. So therefore, from the starting from the beginning till the end, there is an alternation. So there are two ways to explain this alternation. So anyway, the thing is, there are three characteristics arising, persisting moment, and also the passing away moment. Right? These are the three characteristics. So based on these characteristics, these three characteristics, realities, Paramatthadhammas, I'm talking about conditioned realities, Paramatthadhammas are divided into three groups based on time. So when we say time, time is an abstract idea. But in Buddhist theory, when we say the reality is divided time, we are not talking about that abstract time that we experience day-to-day life. It's not this idea. We are going to divide the reality, the nature is based on time. How do we explain it? If any reality has arisen and passed away, it arisen and passed away, from that moment onwards, this reality which happened, which arisen and passed away, is called a past reality. We call it atita in Pali. No, only past. Past doesn't mean the past time. When we in Pali, in the Buddhist texts, we say atita means the reality which has arisen and passed away. Then some realities has arisen but not passed away yet. For example, I'll draw it in this manner. It has something which has not happened. I'll draw it in broken lines. So this is a reality which has arisen but not passed away. Right? So this kind of a reality we call paccuppanna. We call it present. If some reality has not yet arisen yet, means not passed away, this sort of reality we call anagata. Not come yet, called future. So the ultimate realities, in the first lecture, previous lecture we discussed, they have their own intrinsic nature, they have their own intrinsic functioning, they have their sub-nature, sub-functioning, they have their own arising. So when I say they are all arising, they are irreducible. They cannot be reduced any further. They are empirically observable. So these are the characteristics. They can be known through the wisdom. These are the characteristics of conditioned realities. Now another three types of characteristics are they have arising, they have a passing away, and during this period there is an alternation during this existing period. So if something which has, now based on these three characteristics which were introduced by the Buddha, based on these three characteristics, we classify the realities into three groups. What are the three groups? If something has arisen and passed away, it is called atita reality. After its passing away, we call it atita. Something has arisen and not yet passed away, this is called a paccuppanna, it's a present reality. Something which has not yet arisen is called future reality. So these are the three groups of realities we get based on the three characteristics introduced by the Buddha. So now, the next, I would say, the fundamental or basic theory introduced in the Buddhist Theravada, the Buddhist, tradition, based on the scriptures. But this, the fundamental is wrong for some other Buddhist sect called Sarvastivadins. Sarvastivadins and Theravadins had a split basically based on this, what I'm going to explain now. According to the Theravadins, what which has arisen and passed away is already past. For Theravadins, it does not exist anymore. For the future reality which has not come yet. So there is one sutta called Baddekaratta Sutta. In this Buddha mentioned Yadatitam Pahina. Whatever is past is already gone. Appattancha anagata, what is the future has not yet reached. So Theravadians held to the idea, advocate, propound that past realities and future realities do not exist. They do not exist. Only the future present reality which has arisen but not passed away exists. So why is this reason? Before the Upada we say, in the Theravada tradition we say, based on the scriptures, Sarvastivada is interpreted in different way. Now I'm not going to talk about this difference. According to Theravadins, it didn't exist before. After vanishing, it doesn't exist, completely vanished. So existence can be found only during these three phases. So if something to be existing, we have to it has to come into the level of arising, persisting moment, or either the passing away. Or in all these three levels. Even during his passing away moment, still we consider it is existing. Now we come into two aspects of existence. If someone gives, if you remember, we already discussed the Paramatthadhammas do exist. So I also mentioned, according to my understanding, the Buddha has emphasized the existence of these realities. So the characteristic of these realities were they have their own intrinsic nature, they have their own arising, and they can be verified by our observation. So I call them these realities as existents. Now I am talking about existing. Right? Existing. Sorry. Existing. So these are two things. Now from on this here onwards, but before till now, I was using these words in a general sense to show that something is existing. But here onwards, I'll be very cautious to use these two words with specific meanings. Existent means something which has its own intrinsic nature. Existing means only if something has come into the levels of upada, titi or banga, either upada or titi or banga. During that phase, we call a reality is existing. But if something has an intrinsic nature, we call it existent. So, what happens? When we integrate these two fundamentals together, we come into a new theory. New theory means we come into another fundamental. You can see this in, number 1.19. 1.19. 1.90. With the above illustration, we come into the following theories as well. Some existents are existing. What does it mean? Existing existence. And then some existents are not existing. So what does this mean? So these two words, existent and existing, has to be understood very clearly. For that we have to go to the previous fundamental, 1.18. It means 1.18. To be considered as a 1.18.1, to be considered as a Paramatthadhamma, something should be a nature that is existent, a nature that is predicable, that can be proven, and that can be observed with wisdom, and it is irreducible in the intellectual analysis, a quality which can be experienced with the wisdom. So this is what we explained in the previous lecture. So the next quality is, according to the three characteristics of the Sankata, which Buddha introduced and how the Theravadiyas interpreted it, to be considered an existing Paramatthadhamma. Paramatthadhamma, existence. So, existent to be existing, what happens? The Paramatthadhamma has to come into any of the stages of arising, persisting and vanishing. So, intrinsic nature which has come into the stages of arising, staying or passing away. So this is called an existing existent. So how do we understand about the Atita reality, which has arisen and passed away? Does it has an intrinsic nature? Did it have an intrinsic nature? Did it have an intrinsic nature? Yes, it did have. During its phase of existing, it had. Now it's no more. So this past reality was an existent in terms of its ultimate entity, nature, intrinsic nature. But now it's not no more existing. So that's why here we say there are certain existents which are not existing. It means they're already passed away. It's not existing anymore. So the future reality, it will have an intrinsic nature, but it has not come into the state of existing. So this future reality is another philosophical aspect. I'll be discussing on this matter next week based on the other three types of Paramatthadhammas. Next week's first lecture will be more focused on these types of realities. So this reality, now Anagata reality, which has not come into the existing state yet, but it will have its own intrinsic nature. So it's also existent which is not existing yet. Then what about the Paccuppanna nature? It has its own intrinsic nature, and it has come into the stages of Upada, Titi and Banga. So it's existing. So these are called existing existence. So therefore, if you go to the 1.18.2, below that, I have given 3 examples. An atita reality that has arisen and vanished is not existing in terms of the theory 1.18.2. 1.18.2 means it has passed away, therefore it is not existing according to that theory. And anagata, but is considered as an existent in terms of theory 18.1. Why is that? Because it had its own intrinsic nature. Then we call the next example, an anagata reality that has not arisen yet, is not existing in terms of the theory 18.2, but is considered as an existent in terms of the theory 18.1, because it has its own intrinsic nature, but it has not come to the stages of arisen. Then Pachupanna reality is considered an existent in terms of the theory 18.1, because it has come to the stage, because it has its own intrinsic nature, and also existing in terms of the theory 18.2, because it has come to the stages of Upadititi Bhanga. So this is another point that I want to emphasize. When I say existing, down there in Buddhist aspect, there are in Buddhist philosophy, there are 2 aspects of the existence. When we say something which is existing, we have to explain it as it has its own intrinsic nature. But another type of existing means which exists at the moment, which has come into the levels of arisen, or within the range of arising, passing away, and persisting. So this is all one sort of existing. So when we say the existence in Buddhist theory, we have to understand both these aspects. Now, based on this aspect, another very important philosophical idea can be fetched. These 2 ideas, like existing existence and non-existing existence, gives birth to another theory which also governs the whole doctrine, especially the vipassanā advocated in the Theravada tradition. What does this mean? Now, we say this reality had its own intrinsic nature, it passed away already. This has not yet passed away, it has arisen. This has not yet arisen, but all have their intrinsic nature. According to the Buddhist theory, now we explain this standing on the position that the Buddha understood the reality correctly. So in this assumption, if he understood, now according to the Buddhist theory, we can say whatever happens in the future, whatever reality which is going to happen in the future, are one among these paramatthadhammas advocated in the doctrine. So according to the Buddhism, there is not going to happen a very strange sort of a reality which doesn't belong to the range of paramatthadhammas. So we can say whatever happens in the future is going to happen either a mentality, either material reality, or one out of them. Is nothing going to happen something strange which we cannot think. So what does this mean? This means the idea, when we say the future, when we talk about the future reality in a certain manner, what does this implicitly say? The Buddha has understood a certain kind of a phenomena which governs this whole universe. What is this phenomena says? According to this phenomena which he understood, the realities are determined. Determined means he says these are the realities which happen, which is happening, which will going to happen. When we say which will going to happen, he is certain about this. So he understood the reality. It means he understood a certain kind of phenomenon. So phenomenon which determines the nature of the realities. When I say determine, I'm not talking about a God. It's a natural phenomenal process. So he understood the natural phenomenal process means, what does he say? What does this implicitly say? He understood this means there is such a phenomenon which governs the world. So there's a phenomenon means there is an idea of, there is a nature which is called Patavi. It doesn't mean that the nature exists. There is a phenomena by which determines whatever happens is going to be either Patavi, Apo, or mental or material. So there cannot happen something else. So if we give a very clear example for this. According to our experience, maybe in science or in religious perspective, we normally say all beings are divided into 2 genders. Either male, either female. Some may not have a gender according to some religious point of view. But normally we say there are two genders. We never say there is going to be a third type of a gender, because males and females, we normally say, males have their own characteristic, females have their own characteristic. But we never say there is going to happen a third type of a gender which is different from male or female, which we cannot assume. So if we say that the male and female gender phenomena is true, it's something which is acceptable, which something doesn't change, means that phenomena is governing the world. So whatever creature happens in the future is going to be either male, either female. That is called a phenomena. Phenomena governing the world means that is sort of a truth. We call it, that is sort of law, we normally say. So this says that the idea of male and female, though we think about, when we think about this idea, this is sort of an abstract idea about the phenomenon. With an abstract idea about the phenomenon, what does this mean? Whatever beings who are born are determined either to be male or either to be female. So likewise, in the same way, Buddha understood a certain range of paramatthadhammas. So when he says about the future, what is the ability, what is the validity of him saying whatever happens in future is going to be this and this? It means he has understood a certain kind of a verity of phenomena which governs the world. So when we think about this phenomena, this is a sort of an abstract idea in our mind. So this idea is not a concept that is constructed by us. That's the first point main point I want to say in this part. When we look at the ultimate realities appearing in this manner, we construct the idea of a chair. Chair is not something which is found here. Looking at the appearance of the ultimate realities, four elements, in our mind, we construct a concept of a chair. But this sort of idea, or for example, male and female idea, is not just a concept we constructed in our mind. It's just understanding the phenomena of the world. So in the way, if someone says, when the Buddha says, the ultimate realities did happen, is happening, will happen in the future, and it's not going to be nothing else than the ultimate realities. So we understand there's some kind of phenomena which govern that whatever happens is within the range of ultimate realities. So in this manner we think about this phenomena, we are thinking about the phenomenon of ultimate realities, the idea of ultimate realities. This idea is not a concept. This idea is not a concept. It's an idea related to the ultimate realities. So the next point I want to say, the importance of knowing this theory is what the vipassanā advocated in the Theravada tradition, as explained by the Buddha, is knowing or contemplating about these phenomenal objects, not the existing objects. Actually, it means if someone contemplates the existing object, it is not a fault. It's not a fault. But I want to say is why I raise this point of phenomenal object. It can be understood why when the scriptures say that about future reality. So if he say that what he says is correct, he assumes what he says is the correct. So if he assumes that he understood the reality of the world, it means there's a certain phenomena governing that determines the ultimate realities. So when we have the idea of ultimate realities, this is a phenomenal sort of object. So this phenomenal sort of object, what does it mean? Example, if I say hardness, this hardness, I'm not specifically focusing on a past, present or future. If I can focus on past, present or future, it has its arising, it has its passing away, it has already happened, it will happen in future. So I'm talking about these specific realities. I'm talking about in a general sense. In Pali we normally call this samanya. Samanya is in a general sense. So this is a samanya object, right? You will not find this word in the text, samanya object, right? It's a similar, if you go into Paramatthadhamma of Lady Sayadaw, he has explained about this samanya object. Samanya objects means in general sense we contemplate on something. So for example, when we say I refrain from killing beings from today onwards, what is the object of our being? Are we focusing on the beings in this country? Are we focusing on the beings we encounter in the past, the future? So this is just a general idea of beings. So beings means the living beings. So living beings can be a concept, At the same time, in our Buddhist theory, we normally say, when we say we refrain from killing, our mind is, touching with the jivitindriya, life faculty of a being. Even we are not aware of that, because living, the idea of living comes because of the life faculty. So the question someone can ask a question, what sort of life faculty is the object? Is the present life faculty, future life faculty, past life faculty of objects? No, we cannot say it like that. We say it's a general idea. So likewise, when we say a general idea of ultimate reality, this idea is not a concept, it's a general idea of ultimate reality. So in vipassanā meditation, if you go into the suttas preached by the Buddha, explained in Visuddhimagga, in Patisambhidamagga, and many commentary, sub-commentary literature, you find the vipassanā advocated in the Theravada tradition. What they have encouraged is to focus on this phenomenal object. If you focus on specific present, past, future objects, this is also no problem. That is also includes in vipassanā. But phenomenal object is enough for focusing on this phenomenal object is enough for the understanding, to grow the understanding. Because what arises is I'm talking about this phenomenon which governs. So, with the Buddha understood about this phenomenon, so whatever happens, whatever will happen is one of these ultimate realities. So therefore, the approach we made was, the realities have their own intrinsic nature, so there we call it existent, and also realities have another nature of existing. That means they come into the arising, and they sustain for a certain moment and they pass away. During this period we call it existing. So a past reality is not existing but is an existent. Present reality is existing, at the same time is an existent. Future reality is an existent but is not existing anymore. It is not existing at the moment, right? So therefore this is the next aspect of ultimate realities. Then we come to 1.20, another very important point in the advocating Theravada tradition. Theravadians advocate that all the paramatthadhammas are momentary. So paramatthadhammas is sankhata-dhammas, so they are momentary. To come into this conclusion based on some direct teachings of the Buddha. Before that, sorry for that, I have to also miss one point regarding the vipassanā meditation. So existing and existent, right? Existing and existent. So in vipassanā meditation, when we focus on we are supposed to focus on the existence and understand the reality. So now we have, regarding the ultimate reality, we have two types of existence. The existing nature, the nature of existence. Nature of existence means it has its own intrinsic nature. Nature of existing means it has come into the phases of arising or staying or passing away. In vipassanā meditation, existing nature doesn't play any role in the meditation subject. Whether the reality is existing or is not existing, this doesn't affect your vipassana. But if someone considers an existent, intrinsic nature in a wrong way, like a hardness as the self, vijnana as the self, this is a problem for the person to get liberated. So in the vipassana meditation, whether the reality is existing or whether it's present or past or future, whether it's general, it doesn't make any difference to determine whether your meditation is vipassana or not. What makes determines vipassana is, as long as you are focusing on existence, whether that reality has passed away, has not come, is existing, or it's a general idea, it doesn't matter at all. So what matters is, you have to understand the nature of existence. What are these natures? They are non-self realities. They are impermanent realities. Even in the past, in the future, in the present, if they arise, they will pass away. They are natures which beget suffering. They are out of control. So this is the actual thing. Normally we say insight meditation, knowing the truth as it is. Knowing the truth as it is a very limited range in Buddhism. It doesn't mean that you have to know what all the truths in the world. It's just few points that you have to know. That existence and their qualities, certain qualities. Impermanent quality, suffering quality, non-self quality. So if you know about these things, vipassana is accomplished. The existing nature, or whether it's existing or whether it's, while we focus on a certain object, whether it exists at that moment, whether it has already passed away, it doesn't matter at all. Because thing is, in our day-to-day life, whenever we experience the existent, in the next split, what happened, the existent will be disappeared. So some people may come into a wrong understanding about a self based on this existent. Some may, a vipassanā meditator may think about its actual nature. But the thing is, as long as you know the true natures of the existent, vipassana is accomplished. Right? So this is the next point I want to emphasize based on this existent and existing. So this is also related to this theory of ultimacy, and it is very important because it governs the whole vipassana inside meditation advocated in the present advocated in the Theravada tradition. So then the next point, sorry for that, I'll go into 1.20. So Theravadins advocate about the momentariness. So this momentary theory, sometimes this is explained by Buddhist scholars as Shanavada in Sanskrit. The theory of momentary theory. You can find many evidence in Buddhist scholarly works. Momentary theory, Shanavada, momentary. So some say this is a development within the Theravada tradition, but for us, for me, this is something which started from the time of the Buddha, because there are ample of evidence to show that the Buddha was advocating about the momentariness of the reality. So Theravadins came into this theory of momentariness, but the exact period of the moment is something different. Right? Exact moment, period of the moment, the time of the moment is something else. But the nature of momentariness you can find in suttas. Whether they are in a split second or 1 second, it's not mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures, in the canons. But the momentariness is clearly mentioned. So they came into the theory because of few facts. First is the basic characteristics of conditioned realities. Buddha mentioned it has a arising, it has a passing away. During that phase, there is an alternation. So existing reality comes into such kind of a change. The second one is, in the Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha mentions, monks, I do not see any other Dhamma that has a rapid change. So there's a correction, that has a rapid change as the mind does. So it changes very quickly, instantly. Then the most clear evidence can be found in the Anupada Sutta. Anupada Sutta means this sutta was explained aiming the Venerable Sariputta about his meditation practice. So in his meditation practice, he contemplated these realities thus arise, have not been. So it means before that these realities were not there, and they thus arise, and they vanish, having been. So the Pali words are ahutva sambhoti, ahutva pativanti. So these are the words you can find in Anupada Sutta. And also in Patisambhida Magga, this is explained. Ahutva sambhoti. Hutva means having been. Ahutva means not having been. Right? Not having been. Have not been or not having been. It's better to say not having been. They arise. Sambhoti. The realities arise. Then hutva, having been. Pativanti. They pass away. So what does it mean? Before the arising, they were no more. So without being there, they happen. Ahutva sambhoti. Then hutva means during this phase we call it existing. It existed for a short time. Then pativanti, it passes away. So this is the idea of momentariness. Not having been, it happens. Having stayed, having existed for a certain while, it passes away. So based on these teachings, they advocated about a momentary theory. Momentary theory means ultimate realities happen and pass away in a rapid speed. And Theravadins advocated this speed is so rapid, and they explained that the mind and matter changes very quickly in a very exceeding speed. So this moment of Paramatthadhamma, according to Theravadins, is extremely brief. They arise and vanish in a rapid speed. Nevertheless, albeit their extreme momentariness, shortness in existence, these realities are considered existing during their extremely brief lifespan. Even though this lifespan is very brief, they consider they are existing. based on two aspects. They have their own intrinsic nature, and they are in these three spheres, three phases of arising, titi, persisting moment, and passing away. So these are the main point that I want to emphasize about the Paramatthadhammas in the both lectures. So I'll brief what I have been talking throughout the both lectures today. The first point is to be considered as a Paramatthadhamma, it should have its own intrinsic nature. Then it has its own arising. So when I say past, present and future, they also have their own arising. Arising means we can determine them based on their arising. So that's why I say they have an arising. And then they are irreducible in the intellectual analysis. And also they can be empirically observed. They have their own intrinsic nature, intrinsic function, sub-nature, sub-functions. These realities, according to the tradition, are not things, not substances. The reality and its quality are the same thing. They are not duality. There is no duality in that. They are the same thing. And the next thing is, according to Buddha's explanations, they have three characteristics of arising, sustaining, and passing away. During the state, they decay. And based on that, we define the ultimate realities into three groups: Patita, Pachuppanna, and Anagata. Which has already arisen and passed away is called Atita. Which has arisen but not passed away is called Pachuppanna. Which has not yet arisen is called Anagata. So based on this, we came into another theory that the Buddha, what Buddha was telling about the phenomena which govern in the universe, or which govern in the ultimate reality. So based on that, we also talk about the phenomenal object of ultimate realities, which is the object of vipassanā, as explained in the tradition and also in the canon. Then these ultimate realities arise and pass away in a moment, in a rapid speed. So during this short moment, we consider, the Theravadins consider, they exist. Why? They have their own intrinsic nature, and also they have come into these three phases. But to consider as a Paramatthadhamma, the final point, to consider as a Paramatthadhamma, these three, coming into these three stages is not important to be considered as a Paramatthadhamma. What I mean is, it's not that the present reality is only a Paramatthadhamma. Something which has come into these phases and passed away, or something which has not yet come into these phases, are also still considered as Paramatthadhamma. So therefore, the main characteristic of a Paramatthadhamma is it has its own intrinsic nature. And it has an arising. As an arising doesn't mean it has arisen and it is existing. It may have arisen and passed away. It may have arisen and still existing, or it may have not yet arisen. So all these three qualities. So that's why we say in the 1.7, if you go to the 1.7 page number 3 to conclude the lecture, a reality that arises, when I say arises in a general present tense I use, that arises as a separate nature in its intrinsic characteristic, but together with some other similar natures. There is another point. The ultimate realities happen in clusters, not alone, is called a Paramatthadhamma. So this is the point. This is the lecture about the Paramatthadhammas. So there are altogether 20 fundamentals introduced in 21 fundamentals. The last one is about the ultimate representation. What are their numbers, right? But how many are there in terms of Paramatthadhammas? So that's 1.21. So these 1.20s are the basic fundamentals you can find regarding Paramatthadhamma. So next week I'll be talking about Upadinodhamma, which is related to now. Next week I'll be talking about this future aspect. Related to this future aspect, I'm going to talk about another type of existing. To make a start to the next lecture, today we discuss about the existing. What is the characteristic of today's existing? It means it has arisen, it has come to stages of arising, staying, or passing away. From next week we are talking about another 3 types of existing qualities. Something which is bound to arise is considered as existing. Something which is bound to arise. Something from which something we are not freed is considered as existing by the Buddha. And next thing is, with something which is possible to happen, or with something which is not eradicated, is considered as existing. There are another 3 aspects of existing. So I'll be discussing them on the next lecture, and the second lecture of the next week will be regarding the Asankhata Dhamma in a brief way, and then we'll proceed to the conditionality. Right? We'll proceed to the conditionality. In this handout, it's not a complete handout. Next week also we'll get the remaining part of this same theory of ultimacy. So that is the lecture. Okay, then we'll meet on next week.